This is a garden bench made from reclaimed pressure-treated 4x4 lumber built from my own design. And today, I'm going to show you how I made it one mistake at a time. So, because I can't draw and I don't know how to use SketchUp and I can't project my image onto the camera telepathically yet, I used Tinkercad for my drawing, a tool used to teach school children the basics of CAD. I gotta say, I'm pretty good at it. So here's my drawing. I've got 4x4 legs that are going to extend up 20 inches through the 4x4 bench top, and I'm going to cut tenons to put it all together. And I think I'm going to run a dowel through the whole thing just to tie everything together, as well as use a couple of leftover 5/4 decking boards on the bottom to tie it together as well. I might recess those into the bottom of the bench just to hide them, but I don't know yet. Okay, I'm going to start off with these pieces. These are going to be my legs, I think. These 4 pieces I brought in all measure over 40 inches, which means I can cut them down into 8 20-inch pieces. And these are specifically, they got like a rounded edge, whereas the others that are out there that I'll use for the bench top are square. So I figured it's probably best if I keep all the like rounded ones as legs, keep the square ones as the bench top. So now I have to dig out that behemoth. How's that camera angle? Is that good? So some of you might have noticed that, well, some of you might have noticed that Some of you might have noticed that there were still some nails left in those boards, and I'm going to leave those if I can. It's going to be an outdoor bench using reclaimed lumber, and I want it to be rustic. That way it doesn't have to look good again. Okay, so I just cleaned these up a little bit with a brush. These are just 4 of the legs. I'm going to try and figure out which sides I want to be the bottoms, which sides I want to be the tops, and then figure out how I'm going to cut those, because I have no idea how I'm going to cut those. Probably with a table saw and a jig. Is that what people use, as a jig? So, in my made-up plans, I decided I wanted to leave a 3/4 inch shoulder on either side, on 3 sides, and take the remainder out of the middle. I didn't write the remainder down. I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to mark this, I think, right here. We'll go 3/4 there, 3/4 here, and 3/4 here. And what I would be left with is a 2-inch wide tenon, 2 inches by 2 3/4 inches, which is more than I wrote down. 1, 2, 3, should be fine. So after reviewing the play on the field, I've decided to, instead of go with a 3/4 inch shoulder, I'm going to go with a 1-inch shoulder. It makes me feel a little more secure about putting the bench top on top of it, and it gives me plenty of tenon. And I still have this much, 1 3/4 inch tenon. If it's not obvious at this point, I have no idea what I'm doing. All right, that's one. I'll see you in a week when we get the other 8 done. So the nature of sawing these with the hand saw is they left a little bit of a ridge right there, right there, right there, and I tried sanding it off with my Ryobi sander. Just doesn't seem to have the guts, so I'm just going to take a chisel to it, the sharpest dull chisel I have, and it seems to be working pretty good. So I'm just going to take my little saw here and put a little relief cut right there. Doesn't have to be much. And I don't have one of those fancy wooden mallets, so I just take my hammer and this old pressure treated doesn't chisel too well, but this piece was a bad example. So I've got them all pared down. They look pretty okay. They're not all perfect. There's probably like a tool specifically for like planing shoulders I don't have one. I do have a problem though. One of these is shorter than all of the others by about 3/8 of an inch. I guess the initial board I cut off of wasn't a full 40 inches. It shouldn't be a problem. I should be able to just cut these longer ones down by 3/8 of an inch to match them up, but we'll still get it done. One mistake at a time. Well, I guess it's time to bring in the benchtop boards and figure out how I'm going to cut the receiving ends for those tenons. They're going to be 4 feet tall, so I can't run them on the table saw, plus the table saw is kind of a disaster anyway. I guess I'm going to have to put them on my vise and I'll run the circular saw through them, or a sawzall, or the hand saw again. So I cut all these down to 4 feet outside. It was a bit of a rough process because my circular saw won't go through all 3.5 inches. Maybe I should have used the bigger circular saw. Some of these are in pretty rough shape, and this one's got a nail in it. But I think we can work with them. They've got good sides. Not that side, but I don't think there's any point in doing much with them aside from the giant nail that's in the bottom of one. We'll put them in the vise, we'll mark them, we'll cut out the recesses for the tenons, and I don't know, I can see how it goes. I've never done this before. Ow, hand cramp, hand cramp. I think that's how you're supposed to do it. Hand cramp. Got it. I got it. That's how it's supposed to go. And I'm gonna get some lags and some screws and some glue and some epoxy, and it's never gonna come out. It's never coming out, ever. Okay, obviously I wasn't doing that right, and I may have gone a little crazy. So I thought, let's be smart about this. What's the best way to cut these out? Well, a bandsaw but these boards don't fit in my bandsaw. They're just a little too big. So what's like a bandsaw, but more handheld? That's right, a chainsaw. See how the blade goes around just like a bandsaw? But a chainsaw is too big and unwieldy. I can't get the precision I need out of that. So I bought this, a longer than usual jigsaw blade. But that was taking too long. So I decided to drill some holes and attach the jigsaw blade to a jigsaw and cut everything out that way. Smart about this. What's the best way to cut these out?
Best way to cut these out.
Best way to cut these out.
Best way to cut these out.
Okay, I spent some time off camera kind of finessing everything, making sure the legs are the same length, making sure the shoulders are the same length, and I'm happy with where it's at. So at this point, I think I'm ready to drill the holes for the threaded rod that will hold everything together, and the plan is to have about a 3/4 inch gap between every board so that water can drain through and things of that nature. I've got this here 1/2 inch spade bit, and it's just long enough to get me through everything all clamped together. So see how it goes. I've marked center of the 4x4 with the center of the 10, and I'm hoping I can keep my drill straight and true all the way through. We'll find out if it comes out in the same mark on the other side. I think the spade bit probably wasn't the way to go. It probably would have been easier with like a straight boring bit, but that would have been less entertaining. It's kind of a boring joke. Oof. I've got my washers, my nuts, and my rods, and I think that's all I need. I've also got a spacer. It's gonna be 3/4 inch gap between them. This should be 3/4 inch. It's gonna take a while. I'll put a washer I have a washer and nut at one end, and each time I go through, I'm gonna have to thread on another washer and nut. Washer. And a nut. Oh, I needed another washer and a nut for this side. I need to come back off. Goes washer, nut, nut, washer. Washer. Nut. The drill thing is not working. Crisis averted. I thought that the rod wasn't going to be long enough. I measured it for the length of the boards plus the length of the gaps at 3/4 of an inch. But I didn't consider the fact that I needed a little bit of rod sticking out both ends to put some nuts onto. So I had to sacrifice my 3/4 inch gap for whatever the gap is of 2 nuts. And if that wasn't good enough, I really could have taken out one of the nuts in between. It would still hold together. It would just not have as much gap. We've still got the other side to do, and I've got the exact same length of rod. Good luck, everybody. All right, it kind of looks done, but it's not done. I know what you're thinking. What's keeping the legs from just kind of flopping back and forth? Well, I thought of that. I haven't thought of a solution, but I thought of it too. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another board, go from center slot to center slot at a 45-degree angle, which what does mean another tenon. And then I'm going to tie all the legs together with more threaded rod. I got 2 4x4s here that I cut at 22 inches. I did some real complicated math and trigonometry and figuring stuff out, and then I added a few inches because I was probably wrong. So the first thing I have to do is cut these at a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to put them on the table saw and try and cut the tenon out. So I've made some marks holding this 4x4 up against the bench, and I made marks where the legs are and where the bench top is. I'm going to try something super risky, and that is using a miter gauge in a table saw. But I'm not going to use my crappy Ryobi table saw. I'm going to use this crappy Craftsman table saw from the 80s with a dado blade in it that doesn't really fit. That went remarkably well, and you know, if you're feeling bad because you're surprised that I actually did it, don't feel bad. I'm surprised too. Let's see how we did. There's the line, there's the line, there's the line. Oh, that's right. They're separated, and my drill bit's not long enough. So, I've messed this up before, and I've got a pretty good grasp on how to fix things that I broke. So you can see my drill bit is just a hair too short. So I looked down there and I said, how are we doing? Where is the hole? Well, it's over here, and it's quite a bit lower than where I started. So I estimated, and I nailed it. I mean, it's not in the line or the center, but it's through. Okay, all the holes are drilled. I thought I filmed it, but I failed. Let's move on. I cut 4 rods, 2 for the bench top, 2 for the legs. I even went and rounded over the edges on the bench grinder. Made them nice and smooth so nobody catches their leg, nobody cuts anything open. Might have to do that to the other ones. This is going to be the tough part. That was a lot harder than it looked. The back legs were a lot harder than the front legs. I had to do those twice. It's a good thing I didn't film that because I just don't have the hard drive space for that. I think the only thing I have left is to sand it down. I just want to put the belt sander to it and knock down some high points. And, you know, if I'm going to stick it out in the rain, I want to open up all the pores first. Well, I think I went a little overboard with the sanding. This is going to have to spend some time out in the weather to get its patina back. But what do you think? Does it look rustic? I think it'll look great out in the yard for what it is. And I don't think I'll be trying another project like this until I have a bigger bandsaw, because honestly, this is like a one-day project with a bandsaw. There's no reason I should have been sawing and sawzawing and chiseling and all this other stuff. It's just unnecessary if you have the right tools. If you had fun, if you liked the video, if you liked the content, let me know by dropping a like and maybe subscribing. We'll see you next time.